Hello friends, and welcome to my final NaNoWriMo video of 2023. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Holly. If you're new here, thank you for joining during this NaNoWriMo season, and if you've been around for a while, thank you so much for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. Today I've decided to put aside the vlogging and just chat with you all a bit about the last month and what's going to come next. Last night I wrapped up my second final edit on Synterra. That is before my editor gets it, and then there's going to be more editing after that, but my second final solo edit. For the past month I've been basically just berating myself. That's the whole point of this edit. I read through the manuscript as a reader and looked for every little plot hole, drop thread, etc., and it was definitely something that needed to be done. While I was aware before going into it of a couple points that needed workshopping maybe, plot hole wise, once I did start, there was a lot more going on than I expected. I literally had at one point 3 characters preparing to go on a specific mission, like separately in their own storylines, and then I only had one of them actually follow through on attempting the mission when it took place, and yeah. That's to say, as a writer, don't assume that because you worry about plot holes and dropped threads that you aren't going to wind up having them anyway. It doesn't really matter how much you're thinking of them during that drafting phase. They can still happen. So edit, 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 friends. The manuscript, by the way, is 250 pages, and that's 8.5 by 11 pages, so it's going to be longer when it hits that actual, 6 by 9 print size. My goal through NaNoWriMo was to hit par every day, which I set at 3.5 pages of editing, roughly that par, which is 1,667 words, if we're assuming that every page is 500 words long, which is what I went with because that was the way we priced some SEO writing I did years ago. So that would have come to 105 pages to technically complete that par goal. Therefore, yeah, I definitely was going over my par most days, but we are rebels this year, and I finally got that little par badge that I've been trying to get. So I got every single badge on the NaNoWriMo website this year. I know, it doesn't really matter. Next year, hopefully, I will have a full new draft, so I'll be able to do that in a more legitimate way. I just want one, hardcore perfect NaNoWriMo at some point. But yes, I did complete my goal. And my favorite part of this round of editing was the drop threads. This is something new about my writing that I didn't actually take much note of before, just stylistically. And I think generally I have a pretty good understanding of my style, so it's fun to find something new. I'm a plantser, which means that I have a general outline and aim for each chapter, but within those chapters I pants a lot, fly by the seat of my pants, and new angles can come out of nowhere. This I knew, but I wasn't aware of the frequency at which I add these little things in. Example, there were many chapters when I would have a character say something like, this is one that doesn't give any spoilers. So one character says, "At the end of our days, it is blood which returns blood to the place from whence it came, and Fae are not our blood." Her companion responds, "Is that a passage from one of your books?" First of all, I haven't said anything about this character being a reader yet. She's kind of new, we haven't done too much, so there's something I've kind of given myself. And then I wrote, to finish this up, "Daisy gave a dark laugh and responded, 'Not entirely.'" So sure, that could be a throwaway comment, but it immediately got me inspired to create some backstory to why specifically she would say that. The person who could have spoken to her about this, a previous situation that resulted in a similar comment, because it's kind of a heavy comment to make. And there's other drop threads that give more of an obvious thing that you're going to want to work into, stuff about history, etc. And all of that was just the most exciting. It was like finding Easter eggs that I wrote for myself, and I didn't know that I even wrote them, and I didn't actually write those backstories, but now I get to, and it's like a treat. Now, one final thing I want to say before I read my final excerpt for the month is that you need to let your manuscript rest. I don't think I would have gone into this with so much, not an open mind, but a fresh mind if I hadn't let this one rest. And it is hard to let this one rest because I've been working on it on and off for over a decade, and I am really anxious to just get on with it. But prior to November, I had actually let it rest for a year, and that was a really, really good thing. Okay, our excerpt for today is from chapter 32, which is called Beneath a Troubled Sky. It took Kane's convicts the better part of an hour to finish boarding their ships and get all settled. When at last they stood at the helm of their vessels, staring down at the man who had ruled their lives on the island, he shouted out to them one last time. "You're to sail towards Samite Beach, keeping an eye on the northern passage from the barren valley. We've had word of giants and frost. They could stop us up, but our Fae companions know how to deal with that." Daisy noticed the Fae now aboard their ships. Their palette of hair, skin, and dress was quite different from that of the Fae she was used to. Reds and golds adorned their dark skin, and many were playing with flames, sparking and flicking them about in their bare hands. These were no ordinary Fae. "Safe voyage, and boys, earn your land. Prove me wrong, make me proud." To Daisy's shock, Kane's final words resulted in an uproar of excited applause. The men aboard these ships had at last found their drive. The goal was a valid one to work towards, or maybe they just thirsted for the drums of war. The sun began to sink below the horizon, and Daisy felt a shiver run across her arms, folding them over her chest and rubbing them for warmth. "Will you be dining with us tonight, liaison?" Kane's gruff voice sounded, and she turned to look at him. The ships were pushing off, and some were already disappearing into the distance, the Fae ships, of course, being the fastest. "Oh, thank you, but I cannot. I must return to the Crystal City to update the Seers on our progress, and then get back to New Roma to do the same for Lord Steelsong." Right, duty calls," Kane nodded, and to Daisy's surprise, she thought she sensed a hint of disappointment in the man's voice. She supposed, after all, he was alone on the island now, a caretaker for sand and soil. "I've appreciated your hospitality, though, genuinely, and thank you doubly for the guards you have provided." She smiled at the men on either side of her, and they gave curt nods in acknowledgement. "What will you do now that the men have sailed?" "The island's to become a manufacturing point with all of my men gone. Byron will be arriving on the morrow to begin setup for arms production, and I'll be overseeing it." He took a rough breath in and spat on the ground. "Better than watching my back for those lot day in and day out." "Yes, I'd imagine it will be welcome reprieve," Daisy agreed, ignoring his crass gesture. "Well," she curtsied, "I should be on my way then. I believe my boat is still moored as it was this morning." Kane nodded. "Oh, aye, and you'll find a package of provisions for the way back." "That will be helpful," she responded, and allowed the guards to lead her back to the small boat she had arrived in. The sailor who had traveled with her still sat in the bobbing vessel, reading a book while he chewed on one of the sandwiches from Kane's parcel, the brown wax paper on the seat beside him open and revealing a number of other simple rations. "Milady!" Her companion jumped and gave a little bow, wiping crumbs from his face and sweat from his brow. Daisy laughed. The young man had been calling her that the whole trip over, assuming she was some highborn when she was hardly that. She'd corrected him the first few times, but given up eventually and let it slide. It's not like he was doing any harm, and she got to pretend like she really was a lady for a little while. "Anything happen through the afternoon?" "Saw a gull getting a scrap over a leaping fish with some other bird I've never seen before, but mostly just busied myself with cleaning this old sloop and reading. Vasily brought out some sandwiches, though, brightened the evening right up." "Sounds better than my day," Daisy confided in him as her escort left her with her new guide and headed back to their quarters. "It's just miserable on this island. I get why they relegated the convicts to it." "Rightly so." The boatman was fervent in his agreement as the two settled in their positions aboard the craft, and he began shoving off from the shore. "I do my best to avoid this place, especially on account of the ghosts and all." "The ghosts?" "Plenty legends going around, and I believe them. The feelings I've got here, the things I've heard." Unwrapping a sandwich, Daisy pulled an itchy wool blanket over her lap and began to eat while listening to the boatman's tales of murderous specters. The water lapping at the sides of their boat calmed her, and for a time her mind drifted on the waves, quite abandoning all concerns about Kane and Donnell and the Seers and war. There's just something about that chapter that I really liked when I was reading it, and I'm happy I found chapters like that. I'm feeling really good about this novel right now, and I cannot wait to get onto this next editing phase. First, I'm going to be transferring the handwritten notes that I have here into the Word doc I printed this from, and then I'm going to be getting into it, and I think that it's going to be really fun, though I do have to tear apart quite a few things due to some plot holes. But I can see a polished book on the horizon at last. Now, a little bit about my life and the channel. As you all know, I am nomadic right now. I put my stuff in storage in October. First, I did a test trip to Winnipeg for a month to see family and see how I would survive packing for that long. And it was a really good thing to do because I definitely made some mistakes and now I know how to better prepare. When I was in Winnipeg, I had some interesting observations about nostalgia that I'm going to be writing something about now that NaNoWriMo is over, so you can probably look forward to another one of my video readings when that's complete. Next up, I am going to be in California from December 9th to 18th. My day job is having our Christmas party there, and I decided to fly in early so that I can hang out with my podcast partner, Janice Streety, and that's going to be a lot of creative fun. Then I am back to Montreal for the holidays. I don't then head out again until January 28th. I wanted to make a doctor, dentist, and optometrist appointment here before going, and that's just how long it's going to take to get to all of those. But on January 28th, I'm going to be going to Albuquerque and Roswell, which is going to be so different from what I'm used to, and I can't wait. Originally, I was going to go to Vegas because I thought that it would be affordable and fun. I was raised on this idea that because they want you to get in and gamble, that the travel and hotels and stuff tend to be more affordable. So that would have been good for me, someone who has zero interest in gambling. But yeah, that's not so much the case, so I scrapped it. Plus, it'll be way more fun to go with friends someday. So New Mexico it is. From there, I will be heading to Texas to visit a couple of our Stygian authors and working my way around that southern area of the States and then back up the East Coast, visiting authors all along the way. For my channel, you are going to see a combination of beautiful travel footage, I hope, literary, language, and writing content. My plan is to really work on my video skills to create beautiful and inspiring videos every week of wherever I am, discussing the books I'm reading, talking about the writing I'm doing, and how it's affected by these new locations. Plus, maybe reading small pieces that I write as I go, because I predict I'm not just going to be working on novels, I'm going to get inspired by random things as I'm traveling, etc., etc. So stuff like that. These videos that I'm planning to make are videos I myself would love to watch, so I hope you will too. But wrapping this up, let's just quickly talk about the imminent future. I am not going to have a video schedule through December and January. I am predicting perhaps one video for each month, one after California, and then something in January, maybe that reading that I mentioned previously. But after that, you can look forward to weekly videos focusing on everything I just mentioned. When it comes to going live, I am taking December off, but I will be back at it every week in January. For Discord, I'm going to stick with Tuesday nights, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, but also hop on whenever I feel like it. Outside of that, I have a lot of editing to do after all, and I am itching to get on it. And that's where we're at. How was your NaNoWriMo? Please let me know in the comments down below. And whether you won or not, big congratulations. It's a really important step to have made with your writing, and with it, you are also one step closer to your creative goals. With that, I will see you on Discord. I will see you for live sprints here on YouTube in the new year, and hey, be sure to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X, whichever you prefer. I'm on all of them, and all of my links are in the description down below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you actually get notified when I post new videos and go live. And last but not least, I hope that you are having a day that is just as wonderful as you are. Bye.